Hey friends, before you go on that green card, things are starting to get really interesting with U.S. immigration. Can Donald Trump give you a green card? Hey guys, before you file for your spouse, Hi, guys. Come on in. Tonight, we're going to talk about breaking news from Capitol Hill. We're going to talk about the bill, the very first bill of this 119th Congress that passed today, and it is immigration related. Today, the House of Representatives passed a bill that is pretty expansive. It's pretty big. And in this one, we're going to break it down and talk about what's in this legislation and what the next steps are. Come on in, type in freedom now. It's really late on the East Coast. It's 10:39 p.m. And I wanted to get before you tonight because this is all over the news, of course. And so I had to break it down. A special thanks to my team who is working very late tonight with me to make this possible for you. Guys, I'm Latoya McBean Pompey, an immigration lawyer in New York, working with clients nationwide at McBean Law. Our contact information is scrolling below, so feel free to reach out to us if you have an immigration problem. In tonight's video or live session, I'd like to talk with you about the breaking news that happened today, and it involves a legislation that the House passed, and it is now going to the Senate for consideration. And I'm going to share my screen with you, so stay plugged in, pull up a chair, and let's just chat together tonight. Type in Freedom Now as you're coming in, and certainly subscribe to this channel if you have not yet subscribed. Thank you guys for your positive energy tonight. So this is the Laken Riley Act, guys. It passed today, January 7th, and it was named after the nursing student who was tragically murdered by an illegal immigrant who is now serving life in prison. And this legislation, friends, applies broadly, okay, to non-U.S. nationals, okay? Pretty much anyone who is not a U.S. citizen or a U.S. national. The House version is extremely broad. It passed by a vote of 264 to 159. 48 Democrats supported this. And as a matter of fact, this bill or this act was introduced last Congress in March of last year, and it also passed the House, but not with as many support, so to speak, from Democrats. And it picked up about nine additional Democratic votes. What is it? What does it do? Well, first of all, it requires detaining non-U.S. nationals who are here in the United States without papers, okay? Not here with papers, and those individuals are charged with or arrested for or convicted of or admitted to committing burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting, okay? Shoplifting at Target, at Walmart, which apparently is very popular if you're on TikTok, right? Lots of shoplifting going on. And so as you can see, this is not tailored towards going after those specifically who have been convicted of a deportable or removable offense. Now, certain things are deportable, of course, right? A crime involving moral turpitude, a theft crime that rises to that level can make a person deportable, but certainly not if they are just arrested for it or charged with or haven't admitted committing it. It really requires a lot more in order to be removed for certain crimes. There is, and stick around all the way until the end because I'm going to talk with you about how they're going to get people, not for these crimes necessarily, but simply because you're here in the United States without papers. Now, this legislation has this detainer requirement. It requires ICE or DHS to issue detainers for any non citizen who is involved in a theft related offense if they're not already detained by ICE. And we'll talk about how this is going to work momentarily. The legislation also allows states or gives states the rights to sue the federal government for various immigration problems that the states are confronted with. So, for instance, under this legislation, states can sue the feds for releasing immigrants from custody or failing to enforce certain immigration inspection procedures or asylum requirements at the border. And then some other things here as well, such as not it gets a little technical here, but for instance, if there are certain countries that are pushing back on receiving individuals who are facing deportation, and the feds is kind of sitting on those types of issues, well, that could be a reason for the state to sue the federal government as well. And for and actually basically if the state suffers any immigration related consequence for the federal government failing to do certain things and it's harming the state by at least $100, they have a right to sue under this legislation, and in most cases ask for injunctive relief. But in any event, the states are also able to have some sort of expedited lawsuit under this act. Now, let's talk a little bit about politics, okay? Because politics is going to govern everything, right? We know that it has already passed the House. Well, what's next? The Senate, they're already starting to talk about this. Majority Leader John Thune has already scheduled a procedural vote, which will possibly happen sometime this week or later this within the next week, which will determine whether Democrats can proceed with negotiating amendments, because amendments is will have to be part of this process because this bill is so broad right now. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer from New York has signaled, and this is from Axios, signaled an openness or a willingness to negotiate amendments with Republicans. The bill needs 60 votes to pass the Senate. They'll need about 8 Senate Democrats to support this in order for it to pass. Michigan Senator Gary Peters, who is facing re-election, has already indicated that he plans on supporting this bill. And then Democratic Senator out of Pennsylvania, Fetterman, he's a co-sponsor of the bill on the Senate side. So what are my thoughts? Okay, let's talk about LMP's thoughts. That's what they called me at the office, LMP. Okay, so here's what I think, guys. Firstly, the amendments, obviously, in the Senate will narrow this, maybe significantly, in order for it to pass the Senate. They have to have some exceptions in there. Right now, it just applies to any non-US citizen. It's incredibly broad, and it seems so aggressive, particularly on the side of states being able to sue the federal government if they suffer harm that's at least $100 related to immigration issues. So I think that certain things around those issues will be narrowed. That's number one. Number two, this strategy is obviously it's an effort by Republican legislators to align with President-elect Trump to assist him with mass deportation efforts. And we're going to talk about that momentarily. Thirdly, individuals who are arrested for these particular offenses won't be deported because of the offense per se, right? Unless it rises to a removable offense, if they're convicted of something that's removable. But for the most part, individuals would be deported for being in the United States without status. And that's simply the game plan. Just get a large number of people into the removal system somehow so that we could align with Trump and move, a greater number of individuals outside of the United States. Fourthly, I think that in order for this to work, county and local jails must cooperate with ICE, right? And so we've talked in the past about sanctuary policies that certain cities are creating or expanding to push back on the feds, to push back on a possible quote unquote mass deportation plan. But I think these sanctuary policies can certainly hinder the process under this legislation unless those sanctuary policies are weakened by local infighting, right? That's going on. For instance, here in New York, there's infighting between New York City Mayor Adams versus the city council. Adams would like to cooperate with ICE on certain things. New York City Council has said we don't want to cooperate at all about on any level with ICE. So those local rivalries can certainly weaken the sanctuary policies, or these sanctuary policies are weakened based on threats from the federal government to withhold funding, right? The feds are absolutely saying they will, say that they're going to withhold funding to sanctuary cities unless they cooperate with us and tell us who is in their jails, who has a criminal record that is here without papers. That's all that they want to know so that they could detain those individuals and get them in the deportation system. And then fifth, guys, the bottom line truly is you've got to stay out of trouble. Theft, even on the petty level, something small, if this goes through, something small can really get you in trouble. Okay. And so now, let's see. So here's a nice little illustration that my colleague and I just quickly roughed out for you before coming live, just to illustrate to you how this particular legislation would likely work if it passes in the Senate based on how it's structured right now in the house. So you shoplift. Okay. You're at Target, you shoplift, and then you're arrested for shoplifting. And while in jail, they discover that you're here without papers. You're illegal in the country. And so then the jail contacts ICE to place a detainer on you. And normally, under these policies, the jail is only supposed to hold an individual for a certain number of days to give ICE an opportunity to come and detain them. Usually it's like 2 days, 48 hours. And if ICE does not come within that time period, then the jail must release you. So the jail contacts ICE for the detainer, and then ICE detains you and issues a notice to appear in immigration court. And for most people, ICE would then release you, right? Unless there's something else going on and they're holding on to you longer than maybe they should. So after they release you and you're in the removal system and you're fighting to stay in the country, if it doesn't work out, then the judge would issue a removal order against you, not because you shoplifted from Target, but because you're here in the United States without papers, without status. And so that's what they're looking to do. That's the intent here, just finding a way to round up people in a basic way, even though they may not be deportable for that crime, so to speak, but just because they're here in the United States without papers, we want to catch them somehow. So that's the intent here. Not surprising, right? Today's January 7th. We're right into 2025. It's almost 11 o'clock, and I'm here in front of you talking like back in the day, right? That's how aggressive they are right now with this stuff. And if you're following what Tom Homan, the new border czar and deportation czar, has been saying lately, he's kind of backtracking just slightly, guys. If you've noticed him backtracking just a little bit on the promise of mass deportation, just put that in the comments that, he's sounding a little different, like, well, they don't really have a plan. Okay, they don't have a plan, and they need a lot of help. They don't have enough people to carry out the work that they're intending to do. He's kind of backtracking just slightly, but make no mistake about it. Absolutely, they're going to come in, and there will be an impact, and they will try to be swift and fast with rounding up some numbers for us to show that we're doing something. But this bill here today, guys, this bill will, if it goes through the Senate, will make it easier to round people up if you steal, if you get in trouble, if you go to Target or Walmart and you take whatever you're not supposed to take, okay? Or Macy's, right? Just don't do it. Stay away from that kind of stuff. We're entering into a time where you just can't get away with things like that anymore. And they know that this is a fast and easy way just to get these people and then find out that they're non-citizens and then try to put them in deportation proceedings. If this goes through, and uh and you find yourself in a situation like this, for some people you will be able to defend yourself in removal proceedings. For some people, they will have a way out, okay? And we always look for ways out for our clients if they're in a situation like this. So absolutely work with a lawyer if you're ever caught up in the removal system. So guys, this is the breaking news that came out today from Capitol Hill, their first week on the job, right, for them under this new Congress, and they've passed an immigration bill, the first bill that they have passed. So that's what's going on. Let's see. Now, what questions do you guys have, or thoughts or comments do you have about what's going on? It's so good to see so many people on tonight. So the mass deportation, guys, is the numbers that they were talking about, like 15 million, right? That's what it is. That's what they're thinking. That's what I still hold to, my opinion that the infrastructure cannot support that. Over time, yes, the numbers add up. You get into 1 million, you get into 2 million, you get into 3 million over time. But to have that kind of fast impact, particularly in year 1 and 2, our infrastructure will not support that, okay? Someone is asking, could they keep you detained while you are issued a notice to appear in court? So they can detain you. They can detain you and keep you for a good lengthy time if they have the space for you. For people who've committed very serious crime, they could keep you. There's mandatory detention. You would not be able to get out and go through the court process outside of the detention center. But for most others, you will be able to leave. Okay. Now, you guys know that New Jersey is gearing up. I've covered the fact that New Jersey, there's contradictions happening in New Jersey, but New Jersey is really where it's at with building and the contracts to house more people. They're gearing up in New Jersey to house more people or detain more people. What about a moving offense? The bill, from what I've read, it covers theft offenses, burglary, shoplifting, being arrested for or admitting to committing those types of crimes. Again, my tip: stay out of trouble. Okay. Does this bill target U.S. citizens as well? No, it is non-U.S. citizens. That's who this targets. Rudolph had a good question. What was that? Did I cover his question? I'm not sure what Rudolph means by his question. So Rudolph, maybe reframe it. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. So simplify it for me, please. Okay. Let's go back up here. Okay, yeah, the states are looking for any way to get more money from the federal government. So they want to sue, but a lot of it, like I said, will be based on injunctive relief. Um, Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And guys, if you find this information valuable, certainly give it a thumbs up and follow, subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Someone says, I've been trying to get in contact. Mr. Pierre, I'm not sure what the issue is there. Just try to book a consultation with our office. If your child files for you before the new administration takes office, great. If that happens, your child could still file for you even after Trump takes office in 3 weeks. Okay, the immigration system will not stop after Trump becomes president, but just be vigilant. Follow what's going on. Also, today I talked in a very short video about a bounty law that is scaring a lot of people in Missouri, in which certain individuals who are qualified could basically become like bounty hunters and and apprehend an illegal alien and be paid $1,000. People could be paid $1,000 for reporting that someone is here in the United States illegally. But that bounty law, watch my little short video on it. It's only 2 minutes. That law has not gotten very far in the state of Illinois. At this time, it hasn't even gone to their Senate. It's not before the governor. So, but just educate yourself about what this law is. It's very broad. It's a crazy, crazy law proposal. It's not law yet. Okay. But things like that are popping up. So over the next maybe year, we're going to be talking about some things that are like, kind of crazy, but just know that some things will be negotiated through amendments like this legislation that passed the House today. That's going to be negotiated on the Senate side. There will be amendments. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Let's see if I could take just a couple more questions before I go tonight. Someone says that they have a shoplifting case from 2006. It looks, something like this, certainly, what we've discussed, it's not retroactive, but just stay out of trouble, okay? Don't do it again. Things are going to be different very soon, so stay out of trouble. Um, uh, if someone has gotten married and they've just submitted their papers, will they get in trouble too? Patricia is asking. Patricia, most folks will be fine. Most folks have nothing to worry about. A lot of what you're going to be hearing about over the next few weeks will involve people who have a criminal record. Those are the easy ones to go after first. Most everyone else will be fine, other than if you're going through an immigration process in 2025 and beyond, there will be a slowdown with the process, a slowdown because of all of the new Trump policies that they will resurrect. Okay, so that's what I'm expecting to happen, but I think that you'll be fine. Let's see. I didn't see anything in here there's nothing in here about those who have a driving record or are pulled over for driving related offenses. This legislation focuses primarily on theft related crimes. How can we best support you and all the amazing immigration lawyers in the coming years? Roberto is asking. So the way that you could support us, obviously, is by sharing the information that you find valuable for these videos on, subscribing, joining our newsletter list, staying plugged in, refer folks to us. You guys see what we do online. You've followed us for years. You know we're credible. We're on the up and up. We're not in a basement hiding anymore. You know, I should not hiding anymore. What I meant is we're not working in the basement and just in the darkness with immigration. We're very, very vocal about the work that we're doing and the lives that we're trying to change for the better. Okay, so if that resonates with you, just send people our way and to those other immigration lawyers who you support, who you find valuable. Now, Mary Ruth has a great question. Do they go house to house to arrest non-immigrants or even on the streets? Now, Mary, um, so I think we will see some things that we don't want to see, right? I think that first of all, Fourth Amendment still covers an individual in their home. Of course, they have that expectation of privacy. There's a line that is drawn, whether you're here with papers or not, you're still protected. Under the Fourth Amendment and have certain rights. Okay, so for instance, at your home, you know the protocol. You're asking for a judicial warrant. You would like to see that before you allow them into the home, right? There's the right to remain silent and some other rights. And you could get a counsel, an attorney if they detain you. You don't have to sign anything that they give you without a lawyer advising you to sign it, or right? So those rights are there. On the street, Mary, they typically target an individual, right? Typically, they know that this is John Doe. They're looking for John Doe. They know that that's John Doe, so they're going to approach John Doe and begin conversing with John Doe on the street with the intent to detain him. Now, if you're on the street and you're in a group of with a group of people, yes, it's possible. This is not kindergarten, right? We're not in kindergarten. We're adults. We are living in the real world. Yes, they have done things like that, like rounding people up. We've seen it happen in the past. It doesn't happen that frequently, but it's possible by association, being in certain neighborhoods or certain hotspots. They can try to do that, and we know that they do that. But if anyone is caught up in a situation like that, just know that you have the rights that I've discussed here tonight, okay? You have rights to go before an immigration judge and argue your case before a judge. Now, for other certain individuals who have a removal order, it gets a lot more complex and tricky for them. And I know some of our clients are watching even right now because they tell me every day, I saw you. So, what I want you to understand is with the removal order, it does make an individual extremely vulnerable because with the removal order, just sitting there, no action, no activity happening to clear it, so to speak. It's just sitting there. Well, it makes you vulnerable because you've already gone through the court system and um, you're more vulnerable to being detained and you're low hanging fruit for them, easy to pick, easy to find. And so that I know, and I know my other colleagues around the country have been telling you guys too, that if you have a removal order, it's easy to pick. Now, our approach at McBean Law is this. If you're low hanging fruit, we still want to work with you, and we're working with low hanging fruit right now to protect them by filing an appeal, by trying to reopen a case, by getting something else going for them so that we can continue to ensure that they have the ability to be here in the United States. If you have a removal order and you have absolutely nothing going, and I know you do, um, you really have to consider uh, speaking with an immigration lawyer, whether it's us or someone else. Okay, it doesn't have to be us. Okay, we're not for everyone, but if it's us, we will definitely look at your case and we will try to get things moving for you if there's an option. So keep that in mind. Such a great question, Mary. Thank you for asking that. Okay, let's see. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. We talked about the breaking news. I'm not going to summarize the legislation again. This video, this session will be published immediately after this ends. So go back and watch the beginning. Um, Now, you should still be speak if you have it, if you're checking in with ICE, absolutely work with your lawyer on that process and comply with the government, okay? Someone says, I want your number. The number is 914-898-9488. It's scrolling below, okay? Let's see. Freedom now, freedom now, freedom always. Someone has already stolen our freedom now, but that's okay. They steal a lot of things from me on the internet. um, a lot of my contents. Even AI. AI is picking me up now and pushing it out to other immigration lawyers. It's like, wait a minute, those were my words 3 months ago that these lawyers are saying now, but it's okay. Freedom now, freedom now, freedom now. Okay. Michael is asking, if I go to the hospital, can I get picked up by ICE? So, Michael, currently, the ICE has a policy that says that they will not go to certain um, vulnerable places, so to speak, like the schools, the hospitals, the churches, right? That's been kind of like a long-standing rule or policy that they have adopted. I've reported out before Christmas that someone on the Trump team leaked to the media, I think it was to NBC News, that they're considering throwing out that ICE longstanding policy with regard to, places like churches and schools and, hospitals. It's We will see whether they actually go through with that or not. Okay. But certain local laws are trying to protect people, protect them from ICE, like going to courthouses and waiting outside the courthouses to detain people. I know New York has a law that prohibits them from doing things like that. So it's really going to be up to the local governments to really try to put some things in place to create some sort of boundaries. But this is immigration, right? And it's federal. And when I say federal, and I always do this thing here because it's high, right? The federal government has the power over immigration. Okay. So the smaller local little laws are just that, they're smaller. And if they interfere with federal law enforcement activities, they could be breaking the law on harboring, which I've talked about in a video on harboring illegal aliens a few weeks ago. Watch that video on harboring because there is a federal law about harboring. And so the local governments have to be very careful about their efforts to restrict federal law enforcement activities. So it's complicated, right? It's really complicated. It's very, very tricky. But if you need, but the policy, public policy across the board says that if you're sick, go to the hospital. It doesn't matter, right? If you're sick, go to the hospital, get the attention that you need. If you're harmed by your spouse, call the police, right? Don't be afraid to report your domestic violence. That's generally what public policy supports. And when individuals do that, those things, generally speaking, they're not penalized, okay? So I expect that some things will change, but uh, hopefully it won't be too bad. All right. Um, what if I was a victim of? Let's see. I don't think I have a moderator on tonight. I think she might be sleeping right now, my teammate. So be good in the comments, guys. It's late. Um, I have an interview set up for my marriage case next week. Should I be concerned? I think you'll be fine. Just prepare for your interview. Prepare yourself. Know what's on your application. All right. Um, let's see. Let's keep going. More questions. For those, Ushi is asking a good question. For those who have work authorization and get arrested for any reason, will they be affected with the removal proceedings? Um, well, you're here with work authorization. Just simply having work authorization doesn't give you status in the United States, okay? You whatever that work authorization is connected to, unless you're connected to something, it's connected to something like DACA or TPS. That's different. That's giving you some status here, temporary status in the United States, lawful status in the United States. But if you're just waiting on an asylum application to be processed, well, there is no status per se that's attached to you. And if you are arrested, yes, it's possible. It depends on what. It really depends on what the offense is. And if you're convicted, truly, if you're convicted of a removable offense, of course, you could be issued a notice to appear in court, whether you have work papers or not. Okay, it really depends on how far it went. But with respect to the Laken Riley Act that I talked about earlier, it's under the House version. It doesn't even matter if you were convicted or not, so long as you were arrested for stealing at Target, um, you know, Walmart, right? You could get into very serious trouble. Okay, you could be, um, you know, placed in removal proceedings for that. But again, this can only work if the locals are cooperating with ICE. If the locals say, we have John Doe in our prison, we just booked him for, for shoplifting, you know, that's the only way this is going to work. And it will not work if the locals will not cooperate. Okay. Thank you for that. Um, Of course, people will be scared about checking in with ICE. Okay, there's no there's no way around that, Joel. People will be scared. Even before Trump, people were scared to show up to an ICE office for their appointment, um, right? And they will continue to be afraid. But work with your lawyer to really figure out if you have any strategy, right? But you should cooperate with the government, certainly. Will they target illegal immigrants at their workplace? Renata is asking. So, um, at the workplace, I did a video about this one too a few weeks ago. At the workplace, um, usually your employer has a lot of power, right? A lot of say so to be able to indicate to any ICE agent that this is workspace, it's private space, they're not allowed to come in to this particular private space here. But if it's like a public space, let's say you're working at a restaurant and you're not in the back in your break room, you're out there serving food. Well, that's different. That's the dining center, the dining area, which is public. Your boss doesn't really have much to say or any rights to say, okay, you guys need to back up unless you have a warrant that I should look at here to. So it just really depends on where you are at work, right? It's a public space versus a private space, that's really what it will come down to. And certainly whether your employer knows enough to say, you guys are intruding on private space here. And not unless of course they have a warrant for the arrest or the detention. Okay. So, Gary, thank you, Gary, for saying. Gary says that I should be reported and arrested under federal law for encouraging an avoidance of obedience to the laws. And so, Gary, what you should know is what inspired me to do my video on harboring an illegal alien is because someone like you did a video about me on TikTok, put me in the video saying, this lawyer. So I thought, oh, maybe I should educate him about what harboring really is. So, Gary, go and watch my video because in my video, I talk about whether immigration lawyers can also be convicted under the federal harboring law. And I broke it down in that video. And so, what I'm doing now, obviously, cannot get me convicted for harboring. All right. Providing general information only, but thank you for the inspiration always. Um, I love it when they do that. Okay, let's keep going. If you have withholding of removal, I think you're fine. You should be okay, okay, because you're not you have this lawful status in the United States, withholding of removal, so you should be fine. All right. And Gary's up late with me at night. Gary, you know you really like me. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. You're welcome, Mary. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If someone says, what about overstaying your visa and you want to marry an American citizen? There's the Congress provided, our INA, our laws provided a way for you to get a green card through your spouse. I wish you guys well. If you need help with that case, don't hesitate to reach out to us at McBean Law. With your visa, I think that you should be fine. With your application, you have the right to keep that going and keep it moving. Okay, so you will, I think over the next 4 years, obviously, we will hear various stories here and there about, oh my God, ICE rounded up all these people, or they went on the subways of New York City. They were on, Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. They were spotted on Church Avenue, and you will hear things like that. Don't let all of that rattle you. Certainly, again, be careful to stay out of trouble. Just stay out of trouble, okay? Stay out of trouble. We do not have an attorney in Los Angeles, but we do represent clients in California. Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep going. All right. Let's see. Okay. I'm not sure. So, naturalized citizen case was dismissed. Can you reframe that for me, please? Family violence case was dismissed. What are you asking? Okay. I'm happy to answer that. Just reframe it in a question for me, okay? Thank you. Well, Nicola is asking, will my 14-year-old be targeted? I'm a green card holder and I filed for her in September of 2023 and I've only received a receipt. I think your 14-year-old will be fine. I think your 14-year-old will be fine going through the process through you. What you should know, however, Nicola, is that your 14-year-old is here in the US, overstayed the visa, right? And so once the I-130 is approved, your 14-year-old will need to go back home for a U.S. embassy process because the child did not continuously maintain a lawful status in the United States. And so your case, the 14-year-old's case, will be finished and finalized here in the United States before the child turns 18. So no unlawful presence will be on the child's record. But because of the not continuously maintaining that lawful status, the law requires them to still go back, okay, for an embassy process. If you need any help when the time comes, certainly reach out to us, okay? I'm still waiting for the naturalized citizens family violence case was dismissed to be reframed in a way that I could understand it. Let's see. Uh, Trump will be making, yeah, he will be making an effort to revoke TPS. How aggressive he will be to try to target it before it expires, that's yet to be seen. I'm not sure what their approach will be and how far they're going to try to push it. I think that obviously we know that he is the type of incoming president who wants to maximize his executive powers and just push it, push it, push it as far as he can go, right? I mean, I don't, yeah, they're going to keep some things within the rules and then other things, no, they're going to go outside of the rules, right? We know that. Yeah, so with respect to TPS, I'm not certain what their strategy will be. um, okay, thank you for reframing that question for me. Nature TV. Do I have to worry? I'm a naturalized citizen. Family violence cases were dismissed against you, I assume, right? Domestic violence case, natural. You should be fine. The reason you should be fine is because, as a citizen, a naturalized citizen, you're free from deportation. Okay, you're free from deportation unless the government, unless you meet one of the grounds or reasons to be denaturalized, and by being you were unfortunately involved in a family domestic violence case, that in and of itself does not make you um, ripe for denaturalization. It just does not. So I think you should be fine. Now, if you were convicted as a green card holder, however, for a domestic violence offense, well, yes, then in that circumstance, you would need to worry because that could get a person deported. But in your situation, as a naturalized citizen who was caught up in a domestic violence case that was dismissed, I think you should be fine. And I want you to not worry. Okay. Do not worry. I feel like I'm so like soft right now. I just feel like, I'm talking to you like you're right here in my home office. I feel a great deal of compassion for you. I really feel that you guys are worried, so worried. Many of you should not be so worried, okay? Let's keep going. I don't know anything about the Eagle Act. I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I kind of tuned it out. I must be honest with you. I literally tuned it out. I didn't see it as going someplace, so I didn't spend any time on that. All right. Um, the question about cats, then got won their cat case and got deported. No, I've never seen anyone in that situation, Sharon. I've never seen that happen to anyone. It's my dog. Sorry, guys. He has a little cough. Um, uh, let's see. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Scroll down. Lindy is asking, who is better to file for you between your US citizen adult child or a husband who you have just married? I would say the adult US citizen child who's at least 21 years old. Okay. Um, you're welcome. Uh, scroll down. See that this one here has really spammed us. If you marry a US citizen, do you have to go back to your country of residence for a interview? I'm not sure what you mean by go back to your country of residence. Um, so if you're asking, um, If you're here in the United States and you're married to a US citizen, then the spouse filed for you. Can you get your green card here, or do you have to go back home? I'm hoping that's the question you're asking. So for most people, they're eligible to adjust their status through their spouse, their US citizen spouse, and get the green card here, unless you entered without inspection and you don't have any real land in papers to show proof of how you came into the United States lawfully. Well, in those circumstances, you would have to go back home for an interview, okay? Um, you could add your spouse to a U visa case, okay? A spouse. Yes, the spouse could be added to a U visa case. I'm not sure what was passed in Congress in 2020. The Laken Riley Act that we just talked about was passed last March for the first time in the House, and then it passed again today. Um, it picked up 9 additional Democrats who voted for it. So 48 Democrats supported it, and now it's on the Senate side, and they're seriously talking. Schumer is seriously talking about amendments and negotiations. So they're actually treating this very seriously, and they're moving quite swiftly as well. They're expected to vote this week on the Senate side with regard to the amendments issue. All right. Okay, perfect. Guys, I'm gonna have to jump off here because my goodness, it's like 11:30. It's like 11:30. So I've been working all day, so I'm going to get going. Thank you guys for watching. Share this. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that you'll be the first to get notice of these live sessions and updates each week. For this particular one, I will keep the Q&A section in the video after we go tonight because you guys had some great questions. Reach out to us at McBean Law. Again, this legislation passed the House. It's in the Senate now on Capitol Hill for their consideration. And it looks like what they would like to do is have this ready to go, maybe on a day one agenda for Donald Trump to be able to have him sign it. I think duh, right? I think that's what the intent here is, a day one um, um, policy. So let's see if the Senate could really narrow this for us. Guys, thank you so much for being with me in this one. It was great to be with you tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.